Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jailbait and Tackle Outdoors. Um, I don't have any fancy introductions. This is not the Volvo 780 studio, just someone's lanai in the backyard in Benita Springs, Florida. So we're going to get on and tell you the story. This one was pretty funny to me, how this all transpired. Um, my father passed away in 1998, and when I tell you my father, he was just basically just a biological father. He was not one of those dad types. He's just a biological father. So when I moved into his house after his passing, um, he had two vehicles. I want to say he had like a Chrysler four door, like I don't remember if it was a K car, might have been like one of those K. I don't remember what it was, but he had like a little white Chrysler four door, and this will really blow your mind. Um, my father worked at Chrysler for 30 years in Newark, Delaware. That was like one of the major plants in the United States. So he ends up getting a live-in tenant downstairs. It was a split level home, really nice house, and he had a guy downstairs, Eddie, who worked for GM for like 30 years or whatever, and it was really crazy because uh, General Motors was in Newport, Delaware, and Chrysler was in Newark, Delaware, and obviously they're like competitors, and so upon finding out the passing of my father, it was crazy because he kept his little white whatever it was K car. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a K car, but he kept outside, and he had a beautiful little GM truck. I forget, it might have been a Silverado, or I don't remember what the model was, but I want to say it was like turquoise. And once again, G Money has color vision problems, but it was a real pretty truck, real nice truck, real low miles. And he would take that truck. My father, like when he retired, he would just be like some security guard at night, and just do his thing, just patrolling in his truck or whatever. He got whatever he made. But it just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, what the heck was he? What kind of Kool-Aid was he drinking? But so but I will admit it was a beautiful little truck, very low miles, and the problem with that truck, even in Delaware, it can get really hot. Some of the summers up there, it can, you can reach 100 degrees up there. Doesn't happen often like Texas or Florida or what have you, but the humidity up there can be really crazy. But there was no air conditioning in this truck. I'm like, man, what he must have got a really good deal on this truck. But so that's when I had my big Chevy Blazer, and I decided those two assets were going to be liquidated. So I remember, I forget how I think I'm, I'd say 99.9% sure that was the old days, and I just posted it in the local newspaper for sale now. They didn't have Craigslist back then that I know of, or Facebook Marketplace, but so then that's what we did. So then I get contacted, pretty sure it was by phone call. Like I said, it was so long ago, and get talking. People are asking about the truck. It's definitely a nice truck. Definitely a nice truck, and so this elderly Sicilian lady calls, and she says she's very interested in it for her grandson. She was raising her grandson for whatever reason. I forget, like parents were deceased or whatever, but she was raising her grandson. And so I'm like, all right, that's very nice. And she said, I'm sending a friend of mine over, to look at it. Like I don't know if it's just a friend from the neighborhood or whatever, but, or if it was like her, her husband had previously died. So I don't know if it's like a new boyfriend or just a friend or, whatever. So it was like none of my business. So he comes over and looks at it, and I tell him, like everything, and I tell him the truth. And but I do, remind them like the only problem with this vehicle is it doesn't have air conditioning. And they're like, oh, no problem, no problem. So uh, he reports back to the lady, and these parts going forward are really funny to me. It my grandmom was a very short, little chubby French lady. Spoke with an accent, did a lot of chef cooking for, when she lived here in the United States at times, and then she'd go back to France. And she worked for a lot of high profile, like millionaires and stuff like around Philadelphia, like the Grace family and such. But so this lady who was the grandmother, everybody, we agree we're going to meet at the Department of Motor Vehicle in Wilmington, Delaware. Everything's good. So, uh, we agree at, meet at the entrance or whatever we did. I don't remember all the details. And it was the funniest darn thing. I wish I had a pocketbook where I could demonstrate this. I'm going to try and simulate it with an imaginary pocketbook. But she walks in and she is clutching this pocketbook or purse. I mean, I say pocketbook, purse is what I meant to say, and handbag, whatever you want to call it, and it was the funniest thing. She kept looking from left to right, like she was going to get rolled, and so I'm like, I'm just rolling with it, and Sicilian, so she may know about some ties to organized crime, if you know what I mean. Plus, she owned the pizza shop for many, many years, so she may she may have known some of the horror stories connected with financial transactions, if you know what I mean. So it was really, really cool. We go in there, we do all the paperwork at the counter with the clerks at DMV, and everything's everything's going great. She wants to meet outside, and we go outside. I remember she was in the. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember what vehicle I was in. I remember she got in the passenger side, but the whole time, like if you ever watch like Cops or any of these hidden like investigative series on like drug transactions, it looked like the way she acted like it was going to be a drug transaction, right? So it was. This made me laugh so hard. So she kept looking around, looking around, looking around. She gets in the car, and like now I'm feeling guilty. Like I'm like, man, something's not right here. I'm starting to, like, for a brief moment, I'm thinking like, all right, she's Sicilian. Am I going to get tapped here? You know. So anyway, she's talking to me, and she said, I forget exactly, but basically, she grabs my cheek. She goes, I think you're. I wish I remembered the exact terminology, but basically, she says something like, "Oh, you're such a cute boy. You remind me of my grandson, or like my son, or whatever she said." And she like literally was like pulling my cheek out. I'm like, like what is like? I didn't do all that, because she owed me $6,000, and she kept looking around, looking around. She reaches in her purse, and she goes, "Let me." Oh, the other thing I do remember, totally 100% accurate. She grabs my cheek. Let me tell you something. She says, let me tell you something. She goes, you never put your money in a bank. You put your money in a bank. You put all your money in aluminum foil and you put it on your mattress. The banks are going to take the money from you and all this, right? So I'm like, oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you. So she pulls out six $1,000 foil wrapped packages, I guess, and like at that point now it's looking like it's a something illegal or shady. But every time she handed me one, she was looking over like she was gonna, cap somebody or whatever. And like, downtown Wilmington wasn't so bad back then, but now it's worse because it's kind of like south of Philly and people have migrated south, unfortunately. But so it was very, very funny situation. So we do we do the transaction. She pays me in all these $1,000 aluminum foil wrap packages, and I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my god, I love this lady. She literally looked like my grandmother, but was the only difference between my grandmother and her. She was Sicilian and Italian, obviously, and my grandmother was French. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and it made me laugh back then. And I was just having a discussion with my mom about something. It reminded me about that, and I was like, hey, I got to do a story on this because this is one of my better comical ones, I think. Anyway, peace out, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Always help out the Sicilians, the French, and always know your legal limits. See